Hi, my name is Susanna Arambula, and I decided to do my science project study on whether or not if growing up with sisters affects a man's perception on a woman. Now, to clarify, the reason why I was interested in this topic was because as a girl myself, I've talked with my other girlfriends of what are red flags in a guy, what you should look for in a guy, and I've heard some of them say it's a good thing when a guy has sisters. Now that makes sense. He grows up with other women in the house and learning by their experience from other men, he knows how to treat them. But I wanted to know if that was actually true, and I wanted to take a survey among men among my peers to see if they actually do have different opinions compared to boys who did not grow up with sisters. So in my presentation here, I have the big question. So my big question for the science project was, does having a sister affect the way men perceive women? After my big question, I followed up with my hypothesis, and my hypothesis was that young men who were raised alongside a sister or sisters have more respectful views and treatment towards women compared to men who did not grow up with sisters. Now, the materials I used for this project were very simple, as again, I just wanted to do a Google form. So my materials, of course, were a Google form that I was able to do alongside the program in this computer. 18 young men and hypothetical questions of scenarios to test whether or not they respect women or not. Now, my approaches while conducting the science experiment, I originally was going to go out in public and ask men face to face in person these questions. Maybe asking their views on feminism, asking what they would do in certain moments when a woman was in danger. But I felt that face to face, when they see my face, that it would be a little bit more, I guess, stressful to them. They want to get the answers right and they believe that I'm drilling them. So I wanted the men to be comfortable to share their honest opinions, even if they were not popular opinions. And that's why I decided to make an anonymous Google form where none of their information was collected, only if they grew up with a sister or not. So, past my approaches, I would like to show the raw data. Now, it got a little tricky with the raw data as I realized that at first it was only showing me the total of the men who had the survey conducted on them, but then I was able to separate the groups between the men who grew up with sisters and the men who didn't grow up with sisters. But right here is a pie chart showing of all the men who took the survey, so I would like to disclose that information. So this is a percentage of men asked in the survey, differentiating whether they had a sister or not. Now, as I go along with this presentation, I will address my errors, as I did make many errors, and if I had the chance to do this project again, I would. But it was a good try, and I do believe that I did get some information that I was looking for. So here I got 72% of men who did grow up with sisters, and 27.8% did not grow up with sisters. Now, that was my fault, and I should have been more careful in choosing my men and should have gotten a 50-50 instead of these numbers. So therefore, I was only allowed to use some of the men's that had sisters results, so that way it would even out with the men who did not have sisters. Now, here I did want to ask if they had older or younger sisters, and I wanted to see if that would affect the answers. As I said, I made many errors, and sadly, this pie chart did not affect many of the answers, but I will share it anyways. So 22% of them said no sisters. 38.9% said that they grew up with older sisters. 33.3% said they grew up with younger, and about less than 1%, no, I believe 1%, both grew up with one older sister and a younger sister. Now here I asked if they had a close relationship with their sister. So this is between the men that did have sisters though. So 73% of the men who had sisters said that they were very close, and 20% of them said they were not that close. I did decide to ask their relationships with their parents. So a majority of the men in this survey, 88.9%, have a good relationship with their mom. However, when it comes to the fathers, 50% of them have a good relationship with their dad. 22.8% said it was moderate. 11.1% said it was not good. And 16.7% said that there was no involvement with a father figure. Now, this was split up, the percentages here. Now, I believe it was directly 50-50. So half of the men were half of the 50%, if I'm explaining that right, and half of the men who did not have sisters were also 50%. So each group was split up into a half. So in the majority, it was a total 50-50 when I decided to ask them, what do you think of girls who are willing to have sex on the first date? Now, this was a very important question to me because I thought that that really indicated whether or not a man really respected a woman or her sexuality. So of course, 50% said, I won't care, I would still want to go out with her. And 50% said, she's only into hookups and sleeps around, giving me a red flag to not talk to her. So as I go here, I will go into more specifics. Sorry about that. More specifics. I did end up asking a lot of hypothetical questions. I would not go through all of them. However, the information is here. But for example, at one of them, which was a really important one, but I ended up getting a majority of the same answers, regardless whether or not the men had sisters. So one of the hypotheticals reads, you're at a party your friends brought you to, and you find yourself having a good time. Your friends tell you to get ready because everyone is headed to an after party. Before you leave to go to the bathroom and notice a girl you don't know passed out and being taken to a room by a guy everyone is friends with and has done you many favors. You tell one of your friends and he tells you to calm down because this guy is a nice guy and he would never do anything sketchy. Do you believe your friend and continue with your night, or do you interfere with the situation? Now, the wording with this, I wanted to be careful. I wanted to add that this guy was someone that everyone liked. This was a guy that had done you as a man favors. This was a guy that your friend liked. So I wanted to see, really put them in that situation, to think of even a specific person that they know is like that and to put themselves in that situation. Because we do believe that sometimes when it comes to a friend, men won't say anything. However, majority of the men said that they would do something. Now, I would like to go down to more results, and this was a very important one too. This kind of did affect my taste in how all of the men answered the survey. So 55.6% said, which in fact, when I did the math later, most of these answers were done by men who had sisters. So they said, mainly the men who said that they had sisters, said that these questions seem important and they didn't mind answering them. Then some of them said, 33.3, said it didn't take much time and the questions were easy to answer. However, this was between men who did not have sisters, but then again, I did not have enough data to back this up. So the men who did not have sisters, majority of them said that the questions seemed like they were trying to set me up, which was kind of what I was trying to see if they were doing. Maybe if their questions weren't honest, maybe they were just trying to appeal to me to make sure that I wouldn't get mad at them, because a lot of them did later text me and ask if the survey was done for personal reasons, but I told them it was done for a scholarly project. Now, with my results, I found that 4 out of 5 men who had no sisters were pro-choice. Then, the men with sisters, though, who have intercourse on a first date are easy, as the numbers were 58.3 voted they thought she was easy, and 41.7 would still choose not to judge her and get to know her. For men with no sisters, I was surprised to find out that the majority did not care, as the percentage was 60, while 40% of these men with no sisters thought the girl would be seen as easy. Now, these were my exact calculations. I believe in the beginning I did say that it was 50-50, but I remembered now, sorry, it is for men who had sisters, 58.3 voted that they thought she was easy, and 41.7 would still choose to get to know her. Men without sisters, 60% would want to get to know her, and 40% of these men saw her as easy. Now, for my conclusion, what I concluded from my science project, my hypothesis was correct. This was due to not getting enough data, and this was due to the fact that there was an uneven number, which did mess up my numbers a lot, and I had to do some extra math. I found that it made no difference in the answers they gave based on whether or not they grew up with a sister. This is pertaining to the hypothetical situations, as a lot of them were very vague and a lot of them were kind of the same answers. It appeared that both groups, no sisters and sisters, had the same answers varying. I believe it would have been given, if I would have given a different approach, perhaps more vague questions and asking questions that seemed to be coming from a man's perspective rather than a woman's perspective, then the answers would be different, and I could have been able to see the behavior and beliefs that different men with sisters and different men without have sisters. So I did use the psychological theory, behaviorism. I used this theory because I wanted to see what makes a man's environment and social interactions form his opinions and perspective on women. I considered how growing up with a sister may affect the way a man may respect a woman or the way he may protect one. I learned that it may not matter, or there may be other elements besides having a sister that makes a man who he is. Now, even though my hypothesis was incorrect, found to the data I do still feel that I would like to study this a bit more. I feel that I made a lot of errors conducting the research and conducting the data within this science project, but now that I know where I did wrong, I would love to have a chance in the future to perhaps try something like this again, because I still feel to this day that men with sisters do respect women more.